The Trabant 600, a car that embodies an era, a nation, and a unique chapter in automotive history. It's more than just a car, it's a cultural icon, a punchline, and for many, a surprisingly beloved companion on the road. Let's take a journey through the story of the Trabant 600. We'll uncover its quirks, its triumphs, and why it remains such a fascinating piece of automotive lore. The year is 1962. The Cold War is in full swing. The Berlin Wall is newly constructed, and across Eastern Europe, the socialist dream is being built. Quite literally. Factories churn out everything from appliances to airplanes, and in the small town of Zwickau, East Germany, the VEB Sachsenring factory begins production of the Trabant 600. This car was the second iteration of the Trabant series, following the P50, which had debuted in 1958. The 600 wasn't a radical redesign, but rather a thoughtful evolution. Its name comes from its slightly larger engine, 600 cubic centimeters of two-stroke glory. That might not sound like much, but in the world of socialist motoring, it was a significant step forward. Now, what makes the Trabant 600 so distinct? For one, there's its body. In an age when car manufacturers worldwide were shifting towards steel, the Trabant took a different route: Duroplast. This lightweight, durable material was made from recycled cotton fibers and phenolic resins. To some, it was a marvel of resourceful engineering. To others, a strange and flimsy substitute for metal. But in a world of limited resources, Duroplast was the pragmatic choice. The design of the Trabant 600 was as minimalist as its materials. Its boxy silhouette, round headlights, and compact dimensions made it instantly recognizable. It wasn't flashy, but it had a certain charm, an unassuming, almost endearing quality that has grown more nostalgic with time. Under the hood, or rather, under the bonnet, was the beating heart of the Trabant 600, a 594cc two-cylinder, two-stroke engine producing a modest 23 horsepower. That's right, 23 horsepower. It might sound laughable by modern standards, but in its day, it was considered adequate for a small family car. The engine was simple, air-cooled, and easy to repair, making it well-suited to the do-it-yourself ethos of many Trabant owners. Of course, driving the Trabant was an experience unto itself. The two-stroke engine produced a distinctive, smoky exhaust note, a sound that could be described as a cross between a lawnmower and a chainsaw. Acceleration was leisurely, with a 0 to 60 km/h time of about 21 seconds. Top speed, around 100 km/h, though reaching it was a test of patience and courage. The transmission was a 4-speed manual, operated via a column-mounted shifter. For those unfamiliar with the setup, it could feel awkward at first, but Trabant drivers quickly mastered its idiosyncrasies. The car's lightweight construction and compact size made it surprisingly nimble, even if it lacked modern features like power steering or advanced suspension systems. Inside, the Trabant 600 was as Spartan as its exterior. The dashboard featured only the bare essentials: a speedometer, fuel gauge, and a few switches for lights and wipers. Upholstery was basic, and creature comforts were virtually non-existent. Air conditioning? Forget it. Even a radio was considered an optional extra. But for many, the Trabant wasn't about luxury, it was about utility. Seating was straightforward but functional, with room for 4 adults. The rear bench could fold down to create additional cargo space, a nod to practicality. Despite its small size, the Trabant 600 could handle a surprising amount of luggage, making it a versatile choice for families. The Trabant 600 wasn't just a car, it was a status symbol in East Germany and across the Eastern Bloc. Owning one meant you had achieved a level of prosperity. But getting your hands on a Trabant wasn't easy. Demand far outstripped supply, and the waiting list for a new car could stretch for years. For many, receiving a Trabant was a moment of celebration, a milestone in their lives. Yet despite its popularity, the Trabant 600 faced criticism, even in its own time. By the early 1960s, Western cars were advancing rapidly, offering more power, comfort, and style. The Trabant, with its rudimentary design and two-stroke engine, was already starting to feel dated. But in a controlled economy with limited competition, the Trabant wasn't about keeping up with the Joneses. It was about meeting basic transportation needs. Production of the Trabant 600 lasted until 1965, when it was succeeded by the Trabant 601, a model that would go on to become even more iconic. In total, around 106,000 units of the 600 were produced. It was a brief but significant chapter in the Trabant story, bridging the gap between the early P50 and the long-running 601. The legacy of the Trabant 600 is a complex one. For some, it represents the ingenuity and resilience of a resource-strapped society. For others, it's a symbol of the inefficiencies and limitations of a centrally planned economy. And for many who lived with it day to day, it's a mix of fond memories and frustrating moments. Today, the Trabant 600 is a collector's item, cherished by enthusiasts who appreciate its historical significance and quirky character. Restored examples can be found at car shows and rallies, often drawing a crowd of curious onlookers. For those who drive them today, the Trabant offers a connection to the past, a reminder of a different time, a different way of life. So why does the Trabant 600 endure? Perhaps it's because it's more than just a car. It's a story of innovation and compromise, of scarcity and creativity. It's a story of people who made the best of what they had and found joy in simplicity. The Trabant 600 isn't perfect, far from it, but perfection isn't the point. It's the imperfections, the quirks, and the challenges that make it memorable. And in a world that often moves too fast, the Trabant 600 invites us to slow down, take a breath, and appreciate the journey. So next time you see a Trabant, whether it's in a museum, on the road, or in an old photograph, take a moment to think about the stories it carries. The Trabant 600 may be small, but its impact is anything but. And that's the magic of the Trabant 600, a little car with a big story.